the books, records, or association documents. Why do we have this change? There was a situation that occurred where someone was lobbying for replacement of the manager, and a week later they get 10 violation notices. So there was retaliation. You can't retaliate. So if somebody's recommending that a manager, attorney, vendor be replaced, be shy about sending them a violation notice the next week. No retaliation allowed. If you do retaliate, the new law provides that they can get compensatory damages as well as their attorney's fees and costs for bringing a lawsuit against the association. So that puts a little teeth in that law. Okay, complaints against board members on page 20. If someone sends in a written complaint alleging that the board has violated NRS 116 or the association governing documents, you have to acknowledge receipt of that complaint, and you have to advise the homeowner that upon their written request, you'll put that complaint on the agenda for the next regularly scheduled meeting. Now, if they don't want it on the agenda, you don't have to do it. They have to actually send in a written request that it be placed on the agenda. There's a little bit confusion on this new law as to when that written request has to come in. Some people are of the opinion that the written request has to accompany the complaint. Others are of the opinion that when you notify them that you've received it, you then have to give them an opportunity to request it to be on the agenda for the next meeting. The safest way is to acknowledge receipt and say you have the right to put this on the agenda. Just notify them of it. If they want it on there, put it on the agenda and deal with it and dispose of it at that time, and you won't have anything to worry about. Yes, sir. The notice and the acknowledgement, the question is, does it have to be written U.S. mail, or can it be an email form? When a homeowner sends it to you, I think the complaint can be an email, and that suffices as a writing. A lot of courts across the country are now saying an email is a writing. We've had a case recently where the Nevada District Court said an email is a writing sufficient to bind you to a settlement. Now, when the association's responding, I would much rather see it sent by mail so that you have a record of it, you have a nice letter. It's better to send it by mail. I would not take the position that since a homeowner emailed me, this is not a writing. But your response, in my opinion, should be a letter that's sent U.S. mail, just to be safe. Okay, removal of board members, bottom of page 20. It's become a little easier to remove a board member with this amendment. The law that existed prior to this amendment required a two-step process. Number one, 35% of the community had to vote for removal, 35% of the unit owners, and a majority of all those that voted had to be for removal. Now it's been changed to say that we just need 35% of the unit owners to cast a vote. And of that 35%, half of those votes have to be for removal. So in a project, a community with 100 units, if 35 people voted and 18 of those votes were for removal, that board member would be removed. So it has become a lot easier to remove a board member with this amendment that goes into effect October 1. Removal petition. On the middle of page 21, it provides that the board and the association cannot adopt any rule or regulation which prevents or unreasonably interferes with the collection of signatures for a petition. As you probably are aware, 10% of the homeowners can sign a petition calling for a special meeting for removal election. There have been some boards that have tried to interfere with that process and defeat them at the petition stage. It's now a statute. You cannot interfere with that process. Now that doesn't mean you can't carefully scrutinize the petition when it comes in. I've looked a lot of these removal petitions. Some of them will have signature, just a page of signatures with no writing on it. And I've taken the position that that's not an adequate petition because we don't know what was represented or what was said. Somebody could say, sign this and win a trip to Disneyland, and then give me all of these signatures. So I like to see some writing at the top of each page saying this is a petition for removal or for a special meeting for removal. Also, you want to scrutinize who has signed that petition. It's supposed to be one signature per unit. I see a lot of them where everybody living in the unit has signed, tenants have signed. I was out on an association a few years ago walking around, and somebody came up to me with a removal petition, and I said, I'm not a unit owner here, I don't live here. And they go, that doesn't matter, you can still sign. They were taking any signature they could get. So you can still scrutinize the petition, but never interfere with somebody's right to try to get that special meeting, that removal election. Okay, let's move to page 23. We've separated homeowners meetings and board meetings. Homeowners meetings are on page 23, board meetings are on page 27. And we've done separate sections for the two because there are some differences in the law, although most of the law is the same for homeowner meetings and board meetings. Homeowner meetings, most people refer to them as the annual meeting, but they don't have to only happen once a year. The budget meeting's a homeowner meeting. You can have a homeowner meeting every month if that's what you want to do. Most of us, the annual meeting is the main homeowner meeting, and there are some subtle differences in the law. One of the changes at the bottom of page 23 that affects both homeowner meetings and board meetings, notification of the right of a homeowner to have a copy of the minutes upon request or a summary of the minutes in electronic format at no charge to the homeowner. This came about because people were requesting the minutes and they were getting them emailed to them, and then they'd get a bill for someone sending the email. And they didn't like that. They didn't think they should be charged for receiving an email. So if you're sending these minutes in electronic format, which basically means email or on a website, you can't charge for that. There's also been a change regarding sending paper minutes. It's 25 cents per page for the first 10 pages and 10 cents a page for any page thereafter. I haven't seen too many minutes that are more than 10 pages. I hope your minutes aren't that long. But that's the change that basically if you're sending electronic format, you can't charge someone. Let's go to page 27 then and talk about board meetings. And I didn't mention earlier, we're going to take a break at 7 o'clock for about 10 minutes. So, okay, frequency of meetings. The law used to say that a board meeting has to be held at least every 90 days. Now that caused a little bit of problem with associations that had quarterly meetings because there are 365 days in a year. So the 90 days wasn't always working out. So they changed that to at least once every quarter, not less than once every 100 days. And that goes into effect October 1. The next change affects some of you, others it won't. But it provides that a board meeting has to be held at a time other than standard business hours at least twice annually. For those of you who have your meetings during the day, you're going to have to start having at least 2 evening meetings per year. A lot of people don't like that. The attorneys and managers who have to go don't like that. Now, somebody asked me earlier in a seminar, what about a senior community? They don't want to meet at night. Standard business hours are 9 to 5. Can they have their meeting at 7 a.m.? My answer was, in a senior community, that might be a good thing. What I suggested was, why don't you poll your community and see if people want that? Because a lot of people don't like to stay up for late night meetings, especially if they're long meetings. I've been to meetings that went till 10 o'clock, 10:30 at night,